Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions, the mystery of the Voynich Balnea, the bathing sections, and what they might encode. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction, not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. On pages 75 through 84 of the Voynich Manuscript, something shifts. The botanical illustrations and the astronomical charts give way to something stranger. Page after page of naked female figures bathing in interconnected pools and tubs, connected to each other by an elaborate system of pipes and tubes. Some figures appear serene, others seem to be in motion. Astrological symbols float near some of them. The pools are colored blue, green, and other shades. The text surrounding them is, like the rest of the manuscript, entirely undeciphered. This section of the Voynich Manuscript, scholars call it the balneological section, from the Latin for bathing, is the one that captures most people immediately. It is the most visually arresting part of a document full of visual mysteries. It has been read as medicine, as alchemy, as astrology, as anatomy, as mythology. It has been called a depiction of a spa, a distillation apparatus, a cosmological diagram, and a hoax. No interpretation has been accepted. After 600 years, the nymphs keep their secret. What is this section, and why does it resist every attempt to explain it? This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the wider world of ancient technological anomalies, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. The official story of technological progress follows a reassuring arc. Stone tools giving way to bronze, bronze to iron, iron to steel, and finally the Industrial Revolution catapulting humanity into the modern age. In this narrative, each generation inherits a slightly more sophisticated toolkit than the last, and no knowledge is ever truly lost. It is a comfortable story. It is also, in key respects, demonstrably false. History is littered with technological achievements that appeared centuries before their supposed invention, vanished after the cultures that created them collapsed, and were reinvented, often with great difficulty, by later civilizations who had no idea the knowledge had ever existed. Roman concrete was stronger and more durable than most modern concrete and was not matched again until the 21st century. Greek fire, the incendiary weapon that protected the Byzantine Empire for centuries, has never been fully reproduced. Damascus steel, capable of holding an edge that modern metallurgists struggle to replicate, disappeared with the craftsmen who made it. These are not myths. They are documented historical losses of genuine technical knowledge. When we encounter an object from the ancient world that should not exist, a battery from Baghdad dated to the Parthian era, a computing mechanism salvaged from an ancient shipwreck, a map showing geographical features that were not officially discovered for another millennium, the temptation is to dismiss it as misidentified or misstated. That dismissal is sometimes warranted. But when such objects accumulate, when the pattern becomes too consistent to ignore, the honest response is to ask whether our model of ancient capability is simply wrong. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter, the core evidence surrounding the Voynich Balnea, The bathing sections and what they might encode is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. Question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. The Voynich Manuscript, radiocarbon dated to 1438 and purchased by book dealer Wilfrid Voynich in 1912, is divided into several distinct sections identifiable by their imagery: botanical plant illustrations, astronomical star charts and diagrams, cosmological, pharmaceutical, and balneological. The sections use the same unknown script throughout, but differ markedly in their visual content. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes. But as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered the balneological section spans folios 75R through 84V and contains approximately 180 individual female figures bathing in interconnected pools, tubs, and basin structures connected by an elaborate network of pipes and tubing. The figures vary in size and position. Some appear to be standing in flowing water, others sitting in still pools. The scale and complexity of the pipe network increases across the section. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this. And that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. Some figures in the balneological section have small astrological or zodiacal symbols associated with them, appearing near their bodies or in the surrounding text. This connection to astronomical symbolism links the bathing section thematically to the manuscript's earlier astronomical pages and has led researchers to propose that the figures represent celestial or astrological entities rather than literal bathers. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, the pipes and tubing connecting the pools in the balneological section are one of its most distinctive features. The tubing is depicted with consistent detail, showing junctions, valves, and flow directions. This precision has led researchers to compare the imagery to medieval alchemical apparatus. The stills, condensers, and circulation vessels used in distillation and transmutation processes depicted in genuine alchemical manuscripts of the same period. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of the style of the figures, their proportions, the manner of depicting hair and facial features, and the way water is represented is consistent with Northern Italian or Central European manuscript illustration of the early 15th century, matching the carbon-dated manufacture period. The figures are not stylistically anomalous for their era. The script and the content are anomalous. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding. René Zandbergen, who maintains the most comprehensive scholarly database of Voynich research, has analyzed the manuscript's physical structure and concluded that the balneological section is an integral and coherent part of the document. The section follows immediately after the astronomical pages and precedes the pharmaceutical section, suggesting an intentional arrangement that may reflect the manuscript's organizational logic, whatever that logic is. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations, and in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain the Voynich Balnea, the bathing sections, and what they might encode. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that the balneological section depicts an alchemical process using symbolic female figures to represent transformation stages. The tubes show substance flow through apparatus, and the pools represent vessels. Medieval alchemy routinely used female figures, queens, and nymphs as symbols for chemical substances and processes. The objection is that alchemical manuscripts of the period are identifiable despite their symbolism, and no one has successfully mapped the Voynich bathing section onto any known alchemical procedure. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence, but it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that the section is a medical or pharmaceutical text about balneology, therapeutic bathing practices, reflecting a genuine medieval medical tradition documented in texts such as the Compendium de Balneas, 1553, and earlier. Arabic medical writings. Therapeutic bathing was prescribed for specific conditions, and the female figures may represent patients. The objection is that known medical balneology texts are identifiable, and the Voynich imagery is significantly more elaborate and symbolically loaded than any surviving therapeutic bathing manual. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that the entire manuscript, including the bathing section, is an elaborate Renaissance hoax designed to resemble a scientific or esoteric text, but containing no real information. Gordon Rugg's hoax hypothesis. The bathing section's lack of decipherment, under this view, reflects the absence of any encoded meaning rather than a cipher not yet broken. The objection is that the manuscript's statistical properties, letter frequencies, word lengths, line initial and line final patterns, are more consistent with a structured language than with random or mechanical text generation. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding the Voynich Balnea, the bathing sections, and what they might encode does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes the bathing section's pipe and tube imagery has direct visual parallels in authenticated alchemical manuscripts of the 14th and 15th centuries, including German and Italian texts depicting distillation apparatus. The similarity is close enough to suggest the illustrator was familiar with alchemical iconography, whether or not the content is alchemical. This parallel does not prove an alchemical reading, but establishes it as visually plausible. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented multispectral imaging of the balneological pages conducted by the Voynich Library has revealed details not visible under normal light, including faint underdrawings and partially erased marks. The imaging confirms the pages were worked and reworked by the illustrator, consistent with careful composition rather than random or mechanical generation. The details revealed have not produced a decipherment, but confirm deliberate artistic intent. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed the astrological symbols associated with some figures in the bathing section match symbols used in the manuscript's earlier astronomical pages, suggesting thematic continuity across sections. If the bathing figures are connected to zodiacal or planetary symbolism, the section may be a calendar or ritual text, rather than a medical or alchemical one. No computational or linguistic analysis has produced a decipherment that accounts for this imagery. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding the Voynich Balnea, the bathing sections, and what they might encode. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries. Why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. The Voynich Manuscript is held at Yale University's Voynich Rare Book and Manuscript Library and has been fully digitized and made freely available online. The balneological section's female figures are among the most reproduced images from the manuscript and drive significant public fascination. No AI, computational linguistics, or cryptographic approach has produced an accepted decipherment of any section as of 2024. The manuscript remains the most studied undeciphered text in existence. High-resolution multispectral imaging has provided new detail without producing answers. The bathing section continues to resist every framework brought to it. alchemical, medical, astronomical, or fraudulent, with equal indifference. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of the Voynich Balnea, the bathing sections and what they might encode from the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Voynich Manuscript ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.